Good morning.
Good morning.
How many of you remember high school? Waking up early in the morning, trying to get on the bus or the car or get wherever you needed to go really early, and just feeling throughout the day extremely tired. My primary claim today is that by starting high school later in the day, that will give time for students to get more sleep and be more productive and do better in school. To back that claim up, I'd like to show you how starting school later than 8 a.m. in the morning or later will allow children to get more sleep, and biologically why they need more sleep. Also, how sleep increases overall academic success. And finally, how students who come to school later are less stressed and more prepared for the school day. So let's talk sleep. Melatonin. Not just a nice thing that makes your skin prevent sunburn. It's actually not that at all. It's a hormone secreted in the brain that helps maintain your body's circadian clock, or circadian rhythm rather. The circadian rhythm is an internal 24-hour clock that lets you know when it's daytime, when it's nighttime, when you should be up, and when you should go to sleep. And Dr. Mary A. Carkiston, she of Brown University, conducted a research that found that melatonin secretion occurs in adolescence at a later time, and then it stops being secreted into the brain at a later time as well. So what that means is you'll feel tired later at night, why you stay up till 11, 12, 1 in the morning playing video games, and why when you wake up in the morning, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, you still feel tired. This is why teens appear to be lazier and why they stay up later. It's actually biological. So by making them go to school later in the day, the melatonin process is stopped and they won't be tired. The National Sleep Foundation in 2002 conducted a study on students, and it found that students who went to school later than 8 a.m. were less likely of experiencing depressed moods. They had a reduced likelihood for tardiness, absenteeism dropped, and they had better grades. And they also found that they had a reduced risk of drowsy driving and a reduced risk of metabolic and nutritional deficits associated with insufficient sleep, including obesity. Finally, how many of you had breakfast this morning? Probably not many. Instead, maybe you had a Monster? Not many. All right. Well, this choice is ours to be here in college, but in high school, that's not their choice. And oftentimes, children don't go to school with breakfast. They're stressed because they didn't get their homework done the night before. So they have no time in the morning to prepare for any of these things. They're rushing out the door with a Monster in their hand to get to school. They get into class, they're not prepared to turn in their rough draft copy and their final copy for their speeches, and they have no homework finished. So this would give them the time that they would need in the morning to prepare, calm down, eat a healthy breakfast, and go to school without stress. Thank you. No. Well, all you have to do, all you have to do is refuse my claims. So they know about it. Good luck. Are you guys first 30 or done with the class? I gave you your final grades? No. I want to refute the speech on my refute.
Have you reviewed
20 years later.
Okay, Danielle, the rhetorical question at the beginning was fine to get the audience's attention. You identify what the subject is. Your proposition is stated, but it's not really phrased very clearly. I know generally where you're going, but I think you need a clearer declarative sentence. It sounds to me like what you've got in your proposition is also a preview of what the supporting points are going to be in the speech. And then you have a separate organizational structure for those points, which I did think that you laid out pretty clearly. That was a little bit better. The controversy, there's a little bit of background on the idea. Basically, you're though relying on people's own experience to identify that this is going on. I thought that the setup of organization was much clearer than the body of the speech itself. In the body of the speech, the signposts on those supporting points are not as clearly identifiable as they were in the preview of the speech, so that's a little bit problematic. The evidence, though, I think you did a pretty good job starting with the explanation about melatonin and the times at which it is secreted. You've got a good quote there that expresses that this is part of the the biological process for the kids. I think you gave us some source citation on that. There's a general piece of information that says data on depression shows that schools that start later, they have better grades, less absenteeism, less drowsy driving, all those kinds of things, which I think is a good introductory piece of information. But this is a place where I think you could use some backing on your argument, where you need to have, because I'm going, well, data says it has this effect. How significant is this effect? I would imagine that if everybody slept in until 9 o'clock in the morning, you probably have fewer problems being drowsy because the sun is up. I'm not sure if it's a result of melatonin or not, that kind of relationship, and how big a difference is. How do they measure people being drowsy when they're in their car sleeping? I would be interested to know how they reach that conclusion. The grade difference to me sounds like an important argument to make, that people are better prepared in their grades or they do better. What's this based on? The research that you gave is very abstract. It's conclusionary. Yeah, I'm sure it's a summary of somebody's research, but without any details, it's awfully hard to assess. And this would be one of those things that if I was doing the refutation speech, first thing I'd do is find out, well, what's this data say? I mean, how did they figure out this kind of information? Because that's the clearest and strongest part of the argument that says that it has these particular benefits to do that. The example that you talked about, well, because they didn't get their homework done, and so they're depressed or nervous or stressed out at the beginning of the day because they didn't eat breakfast and all those kinds of things. I'm sitting here thinking, well, if you didn't stay up until 12 o'clock playing video games, you could have done your damn homework. And I'm not exactly sure why, if you get up at 7 you can't eat, and you can eat if you get up at 9 or 8. I mean, what's the difference there? There's got to be an explanation about why eating is related to the time of day that you get up. It seems to me more like it's the amount of preparation time that you have. For example, if you went to bed at 9 o'clock, got up at 5 in the morning, you'd have 2 hours before you had to leave to school. You could make yourself you could pluck a chicken and make yourself a chicken breakfast dinner, something like that. It's just, I'm not sure why it is that it's morning. The only thing that varies on this is the one piece of information that you had at the beginning that says that adolescents primarily have the melatonin issue, they're on a different cycle. And I'd like a little bit more information about this circadian cycle also. I think that's something that probably needed to be explained a bit more. All right, it's a brief speech, so there's room to be able to put that kind of information in the presentation too. Thank you.